All right, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back. After a little delayed lunch there, we sincerely apologize, but hopefully it gave you a little bit more time to just network here in the early afternoon after lunch and settle down for a little bit. But we'll get started back up here, and hopefully we can get back on track and make up for some of the time later in the afternoon, since with the reception later this evening, I think you'll have a little bit of a cushion. It just might be a little shorter in terms of the time in between getting back to your rooms and coming back out later on to relax. So with that, we'll get started here and try and stay on track here for the latter part of the afternoon here. And just going to introduce two folks here that will be making the presentation on the Tioga River watershed work that's been going on. Andrew King with the Susquehanna River Basin Commission and Tom Clark with Kleinfelder are going to be making the presentation today. Andrew is an environmental scientist with their abandoned mine program project, abandoned mine work that's going on in SRBC, and Tom is the project development manager for Kleinfelder, and formerly also with SRBC, where I'm sure a lot of this work got started. Andrew's an environmental scientist with SRBC for the last 5 years, kind of been working in the mine drainage program. He's got his BS in environmental science from Millersville, and in his free time he's an avid fly fisherman. He's got some fish tails, you could tell, all of us. Tom's been the abandoned mine program development manager for Kleinfelder since March, and his main focus has been really on the initiation of their mine drainage treatment and mine reclamation projects, particularly with the Infrastructure and Jobs Act funded coming through. Prior to that, he was the A&D program coordinator for 16 years down at the SRBC. He's got his BS in terrestrial ecology from the University of Pittsburgh, and an MS in biology and aquatic ecology and water pollution control from Calhoun University. Tom lives in Indiana with his wife and his 2 kids. Well, his 2 kids are moving on now. They're out of the house, so he's just an empty nester. And we're off to better things here. Adam and Alex are Dennis and playing some football. So with that,
thank you for that.
Could you switch on the mic, please?
So with that, I don't know who's going to speak first. Is Andrew or Tom?
Yeah, I will.
All right.
Thanks, Barry.
There you go.
Okay, how close do I have to get to this? You guys hear me? Good afternoon. Thanks for coming to listen. Hope you enjoyed the taco break. Today's presentation is titled Tioga River Watershed Restoration, Consumptive Use Mitigation through an Active Mine Drainage Treatment Plant Project. As Bobby said, my name is Andrew King. I'm the Mine Drainage Program Coordinator with the Susquehanna River Basin Commission. Been with the Commission for 7 years, 5 years working in the Mine Drainage Program, alongside Tom Clark, our other presenter this afternoon. Tom Clark worked 16 years with SRBC. He led the mine drainage program, and at the beginning of the year he left to work for Kleinfelder as their project development manager. Kleinfelder is the engineering firm that we hired to design the active treatment plant up in Tioga, which is what we're going to present to you this afternoon. Oh yeah, how about that? There's me and Tom. Here's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to touch briefly on mining history in the Tioga watershed, problems that arose from that, the impact that they cause. The majority of this is going to be on our solution to those problems, and then we'll touch briefly on opportunities that arose from that solution. The Commission, as the name implies, works all over the Susquehanna River Basin. It means we work in all the major coal fields in Pennsylvania, bituminous in the west, anthracite in the east, broadtop in the southwest, and the northern bituminous fields up along the New York border. That's where the Tioga watershed is, and that's where this project takes place. Tioga headwaters are impacted from historical mining in its headwaters near the town of Blossburg. It's tough, I gotta push over on this one, down on this one, that's confusing. So coal was first discovered in Blossburg in 1792 and first mined in 1806. At the peak of production in 1880, Tioga was producing over 1 million tons of coal a year. Coal was mined in Blossburg and Morris Run until the mid-1980s. So here's the problem. You have 6 discharges that are the main impact of the Tioga River. Those discharges, you have a discharge on Bear Creek, discharge on Coal Creek, 3 discharges on Morris Run, and a discharge on Fallbrook. All these discharges enter the Tioga River within 5 miles of each other. They pack such a punch that downstream 20 miles, the Tioga River is impacted, is listed as impaired by AMD. That goes all the way up to the Tioga Reservoir, and that impairment would continue for a longer reach, but it's mitigated by the Hand Reservoir, which we'll talk about later. So getting into the problems. First one is located on Coal Creek. The discharge is named DCC-05. All the water that you can see in that picture is out of the mine. Kind of looks pretty to look at, but it's awful. My old partner described, she'd say, that's a lot of shit water. Now, my boss asked me not to swear, so I just said this is pretty nasty water. But it's
I heard you. And I never said shit. I never said shit.
Yeah, see, Tom never said shit. I didn't either. So you're looking at an average flow of 2.5 million gallons a day of water with the pH in the high 2s. It's really nasty stuff. You're talking about 900 tons a year of acidity, 100 tons a year of iron, and 100 tons a year of aluminum. DCC-05 is a free draining mine. Means there's no mine pool behind it. You can manually manipulate to allow for the ease of collection and then further on treatment. Highest flows that have been measured out of DCC-05, by the way, it gets up to 11 million gallons a day. Moving on through the watershed, we have DMR-04. The entryway of DMR-04 was reclaimed over, so it now emerges as an artesian discharge. DMR-04 is the largest impact on Morris Run. You can see the loadings up on the screen there. Also on Morris Run, you have DMR-03. This is the second largest impact to Morris Run. All the water quality of the discharges on Morris Run, real similar water quality. pH in the low to mid 3s, conductivity averages 1100 to 1600. Just like DCC-05, all the discharges on Morris Run are free draining. So again, there's no mine pool behind them to play with. Last one on Morris Run, third largest impact is DMR-01. This is the collapsed entryway right there. And this again has an artesian flow. DFB-99 is a discharge that impacts the tributary of Fallbrook. It's currently partially treated by a passive treatment system. Shit, sorry, I didn't say shit. This is the overhead. There's 3 treatment cells and 2 settling ponds. Due to equipment failure at the collection point, the system now receives more water than it was meant to handle. It was originally only meant to handle 800 gallons a minute. It now receives the brunt of the discharge, and it's more than the system can effectively treat. So what Tom's going to talk to you about is we're going to take all these discharges and pipe them to a central active treatment plant. This is a look at what the average influent into the plant is going to be. On average, it'll treat a little over 5 million gallons a day. Loadings it's going to have to deal with 11,000 pounds a day of acidity, 1,000 pounds a day of iron, and 700 pounds a day of aluminum. That's just under average flows. Like I said, all these discharges are free draining, so this plant's going to have to take whatever Mother Nature wants to throw at it that day. The highest measured flows we've seen up there is around 1,200 million gallons a day. Right now, I'm gonna turn it over to Tom. Good luck.
Thank you, King. Just a little quick story. I always tell a story that others I present with. Some of you may know Dr. William Kimmel. That was my graduate professor in California. And Dr. Kimmel always said you at least swore once in every presentation because it keeps everyone awake. And I think we swore about 5 or 6 times already. So we're well ahead of the ballgame. Thanks, King, by the way, and we're gonna talk about some of the design solutions. I'm gonna preface this talk by reminding everyone that I am a biologist by trade. So I'm gonna talk design work as a biologist, so we'll see how this goes. Just give you a timeline, where we were, where we are now, where we're gonna be in the near future. This project was funded to SRBC in 2021. I do believe Kleinfelder won the proposal in the first quarter of 22. As you can see, we didn't have a conceptual done until October of 2022, and that's because there was a lot of questions that needed to be answered there in terms of if there was mine pools that we can manipulate there. So a lot of borehole happenings in that summer of 2022, helped along with by Bammer and Artie Crossman. And what we found out there, and what I'm gonna talk about there, is there's really no mine pools there to help us there. So we have to, as King said, deal with the flow as it's given to us. Preliminary design, 30% was completed December 2022. We just came out of the pre-final design, 60%. So we just opened up our not, getting to the 90% design. We estimate final design first quarter of 2024. And then second quarter 2024, hopefully getting this out on the street and construction bid. So some of the things I'm going to touch on here, design considerations. As King mentioned, these are free draining mines. So you have a very diverse flow regime coming out of all of them, particularly DCC05 and DFB099, for instance. I think DCC05 gets around its low end about 400 gallons a minute, and its high end, it tops over 4,000 gallons a minute. So you have to consider your piping sizes and things like that when you have such a wide-ranging flows that you have to manage. Even though these discharges are relatively close to one another, there's still some distance between Fallbrook, which is on the eastern side, and then Coal Creek, which is on the western side. But, it's still advantageous for that, kind of like that one plant to save the realm. You put it in the central location, pipe all the discharges to it, treat it all in one spot. To me, it makes more sense than doing everything separately, having 5 different operation and maintenance plans. So, other things, minimizing impacts. When you're bringing discharges from distance to a centralized plant, you want to utilize right-of-ways as much as possible. We're in some residential area there, so we got to manage that as well. Tioga State Forest, a lot of land there, so there's some opportunities, but we also didn't want to tear down a lot of trees either, because that wouldn't make a lot of sense. So we really focused on trying to minimize the impacts of this project towards construction. Collection of DCC05 is its own challenge within this challenging project, and I'll go into a little more detail about that there. Tough to convey, tough to just capture really, and get it down to a pump station, so we'll go over that. Anytime you're talking ATP, anytime you're talking multiple pump stations, there's obviously a lot of electricity. And not only that, but we're in northern Pennsylvania, so you get a lot of snow. You get 3 foot of snow, you get ice. So you gotta manage that idea, well, we might not have electricity during certain, so how do you manage that? So we'll get into that here in a little bit. The 3 words I'm gonna say a lot, redundancy, operational flexibility at the ATP and pump stations, we'll go over all that. And then downstream impacts, something I wanna throw out there is how we should be looking at where we're putting the treated water. If there's advantages to moving the treated water into different locations to maximize your gains stream mileage wise. This is screwing me up.
Down, push down.
Yeah,
Just push down.
I got it now. Okay. So overall project is kind of like 10,000 foot level. You have DFB 099 over here in the eastern part, Coal Creek 05 here. I'll talk about this here in a little bit. DMR 03 and 01 are very close to one another. DMR 04 and the ATP site. DMR 04 is on the ATP site, so that's easier to capture and convey, obviously. Sludge injection to the north, so when you add everything up there, you can see we're utilizing roadways as much as possible for our conveyance lines to use that right away, you deal with less property owners and things of that nature. We're looking at about 9 miles of conveyance piping, a lot of that under forced mains because we are pumping from all of them. DFB 099 is captured for a short distance out to River Road, pumped the whole way up. DMR 0103, a little bit of gravity, but pumped as well. And in DCC 05, we're gonna get into the little capture and conveyance details with that. And then upon investigation, we found that DCC 05B, there's a smaller discharge there coming out of like a secondary entry. It's only 30 or 50 gallons a minute. And what we're gonna do there is just kind of reclaim that entry, force the water back to DCC 05, just have one source of capture. But look, one of the things I want to touch on there, with an LOD of 50 acres, and we're kind of pretty proud of this, are ways of conveyance and where we decided to put the ATP. We only have wetland impact less than an acre, so we're kind of really proud of that. And we already got our ship openers as well. So moving right along. So Coal Creek 05, like I said, it's kind of like the challenge within the challenge. There's a minimal area for collection structure. As I mentioned, highly variable flows, 300 to 4,000. The idea here is to reestablish, there's a haul road that you can see. And if that was the easiest way for them to get the miners to there, it's gonna be the easiest way for us to get there to capture and convey that water. But I have some imaging here that's gonna show you how tight it is down there and how steep it is down there. But it's a true challenge to capture this discharge. And here's what I'm talking about here. Here's some terrain imaging there. So the blue line I drew in, because the MHD line isn't very accurate there, but that's Coal Creek. And then right there, you can see that little knuckle there? That's DCC 05 in that really steep area there. It's like 3-to-1 slope, it's really tight. You don't have a lot of distance between outfall and stream. So there's just a lot of challenge there. And then you can see the haul road. Comes down here and then hooks up with Old Bloss Road down there. So that's the idea. We're gonna reestablish that haul road, allow us to get up there, do what we have to do to capture and convey. The pumping station is gonna be right down there on Old Bloss Road. So that's the idea. But you can see how tight, how steep. It's just a true challenge. And I think it's always been the problem in Tioga River that kept this project from moving forward. But now obviously with all the IIJA money, this is now feasible. So how are we gonna capture Coal Creek 5? Redundancy. So right here, we're gonna shove two 24-inch HDP perforated pipes in parallel within the mine. So there's your redundancy there. And then we're gonna have redundancy over the top of that. And we're gonna put that into a spring block. So to me, we have like double redundancy there because you have to be careful with this discharge. If you don't treat it all the time, if you don't treat it 24/7, 365, you can lose all your gains on the Tioga River. So you've gotta be, you can treat Fallbrook and Morris Run discharges. If you left Coal Creek alone, Tioga River still be destroyed. So it's real important. Culvert crossing, obviously we gotta get over there. So two 4x6 culverts here. And there's your pipe that's gonna bring the discharge from the outfall out to Old Bloss Road to the pump station. So, pump station, pretty large. When you're pumping, when you have to pump upwards of 4,000 gallons a minute, your pump station is gonna be quite large. Once again, fully redundant system. You can't stop pushing water. You can't stop pushing Coal Creek to the treatment system. You can't stop, because if you do, then you're gonna lose Tioga River. So we have remote operation. It allows for 24/7, 365 operation. Each pump has its own inline backup. So for instance, if a pump goes down, the other pumps are already there. You could turn them on, fix what you have to fix in your normal side, and be on with it. So Because another thing you gotta realize is that sometimes when something breaks, you gotta wait for a part. So we can't have that happen there, so everything is fully redundant. And then you guys, like I said, it's gonna run by electricity, but what if you don't have electricity? So we do have a fuel backup there that will be switched on when you do have that ice storm or, tropical storm Lee that comes up through. And then as you're going through a project, you always have other issues that arise that you're not expecting, and one of them occurred very early on. This is the KLJ property right here, and it came up for sale right as we were getting into like conceptual design. And worst case scenario there would be someone purchasing that property and then keeping us out. And if that was the case, it could have just ended the entire thing. So we got kind of creative there, and SRBC was great about. They gave a $500,000 grant to the North Central PA Conservancy to purchase that property. And that property allows us access to DCC-05. It allows us to put, because right there would be a pump station. And then what's great about this is afterwards, after the construction's over, Bureau of Forestry is interested in acquiring that property from North Central Pennsylvania Conservancy and adding it to the Tioga State Forest Holdings. So a lot of amenities on the site. So to me, we took a problem and created an opportunity out of it. If you're looking for cheap property in Blossburg, buy it now. Because if you look at it, you're gonna have a restored river through Blossburg. Their Bureau of Forestry is also looking at this property here. It will be completely surrounded by Tioga State Forest. So in my mind, it's a future river town, forest town. Other opportunities, if you're, I'd love to be a grad student looking for a thesis. This is a perfect thesis project. The yellow lines are your wild trout designated streams. Green are your Class A. So as soon as you turn the switch on in this system, those fish should have access to come right back into the river. How quickly does that occur? At what rate? And those are things that could be studied. So, but you can see there, it's kind of like that one project to save the world, and you already have recolonizers. There's already trout there. There's already trout that you can get in there and reestablish. So it's going to be interesting to see how quickly that occurs. So DFB 099, that's kind of like the other challenge within the challenging project. As King mentioned, there's an existing passive treatment system there that's overloaded. What's happened there is their capture structure has become compromised with the acidity and is putting more water into the system than what it was designed to treat. So it's less effective, and then the operation and maintenance has increased there as well. So we want to fix this problem because we look at this as a way to be redundant with the water capture at Fallbrook. So we're going to capture the water before it gets to the passive system, give the passive system what it was designed to take, and then ship everything else off to a pump station that will be located about right in there. And then the rest of it will go up to the active treatment plant. The other thing I want to touch on here, if you're bringing and talking about, thinking about where best to put treated effluent at. If we're sending a pipeline up to the treatment plant with bad water, why not just put another pipe in the ditch and bring good water back? Because that lower 2 miles of Fallbrook is some of the prettiest water you've ever seen. And we could bring back like 2 miles of it just by bringing back treated water. So one of the things we've thought about there was where best or how best to divvy up that water. So that's one of the things we're gonna do there. Other complications, so the passive system redundancy, what's gonna happen is 0 to 300 gallons per minute will go to the passive treatment system essentially. Everything between 300 and about 2,000 is gonna be pushed by the pump station up to the plant. Anything over 2,000, this discharge has on occasion got over 2,000. It's very rare, but it does happen. Remember, if King said 800 gallons a minute, we have, it's the design capacity of that treatment system. We have a 500 gallon a minute buffer there. So anything over 2,000 will allow us to get up to that essentially that 800 gallon buffer that we have there. Removal of the flow control structure that isn't working. The other problem here is a lot of infrastructure around this area, particularly from the gas industry So to get around that, or I should say to get underneath it, we're gonna horizontally, directionally drill underneath Fallbrook and underneath all the infrastructure just to get away from that, so to minimize that risk. So we're at the plant now, and remember, I'm a biologist, I'm gonna do my best here. So, who was on the Black Lake tour yesterday? A lot of you? This is very similar setup here. You got a dual train, hydrated line type plant. The only real big difference is that they have carbon in their water over at Black Lake that they can blow off with aeration and improve it. We don't. These things are free draining. They're full of oxygen. There's no need for that because you're not going to push the pH anywhere. So that's kind of like the only real difference. This is also bigger. But everything comes into a collection tank here. And then, like I said, dual system. You can cut this thing in half. This side treats upwards of 7.5 billion gallons per day. This side can do the same, 7.5. Why 15? Historical record shows the combined flow of those discharges to be about 12. But you don't want to design it for 12. You want to give yourself a little bit of safety. So we thought 15 would be a good number that allows for that operational flexibility. But it's very similar to that. You have reaction tanks where your hydrated line's going to go. Flocculation, or these are reaction tanks. These are your flock tanks. And then right here, that might be the only difference, the only other difference with Black Lake. We're going to put all the treated water into a pump station, and that's going to allow us to pump that clean water back to Fallbrook and bring that lower 2 miles back. The rest of it going to Morris Run and upstream is going to be restored as well. But that allows us to bring out back that. If you've never went and seen the Fallbrook Falls, get yourself up there. It's really pretty. So just kind of key points to kind of end with. Energy and equipment redundancy at all the pump stations. As stated, you have to treat this stuff 24/7, 365, so that's paramount. The added capture and conveyance redundancy at DCC 05, I feel like we have double redundancy there just because we've got to be careful with that discharge. The ability to bypass extreme flows at 5 and 099, those are our two biggest flows, so we have the availability to even bypass water there if you have that really weird, drastic hurricane event. Utilizing DFB 099 as an additional treatment and bypass. Think about those things. I think if you're looking at a similar situation, maybe giving less water to a passive treatment system, making it function better, may be an alternative there and allow you to manage your water going to your plant a little better. Strategically treat water effluents to Fallbrook and Morris Run. Thinking about where you're going to put your treated effluent. It's advantageous to take it back to Fallbrook. If you're putting a ditch there, take treated water back. Dual clarifiers, allowing for the average to be treated on one side. Let's say that the influent is 5 mgd. You could treat that all on one side, do your operation and maintenance on the other side, and when you're done, you could flip it back and forth and do operation and maintenance on the first side. Really important there to accommodate the high flow events. We can't control this water, so we got to treat what's coming. Open troughs where possible in the ATP to improve access and ease of maintenance. That's something we got from the Rosebud plant. If you don't need a line that can clog, don't have it. Open troughs are the way to go in some regards. Here's something I'm really, I believe no polishing pond or wetland. If we're putting treated water into cold water streams, let's keep it cold. So we're looking at water right from the clarifier system to Fallbrook, to Morris Run, putting it into a wetland or pond in my mind for the last couple milligrams of iron, is it worth it? To me, 3-to-1 iron, would you rather have 3-to-1 iron or 60-degree water instead of 75 or 80-degree water coming out? To me, it's important to think about. We have the ability to add soda ash silo if needed. We did some modeling there, and because we're not treating the Bear Creek discharge, so we have to hit some alkalinity concentration goal to adequately attenuate that discharge. If we can't do that, we have the ability to bring in a soda ash to kick up that alkalinity even more, because you can only go so far with hydrated lime. You would have to use soda ash as an alternative. And then the sludge batch conveyance directly from the clarifier to the injection wells. That's something that you'll always see on some of these plants. So I'm gonna hand it back over to King. He's gonna talk about just a couple more slides there, the low flow augmentation.
So, one of the main goals of the commission is to make sure that there's always water in the river for people, businesses, the aquatic ecosystem. One of the ways we do that is by looking for low flow mitigation water. This is the Tioga Reservoir, this is the Hammond Reservoir. It said that the Tioga River is impacted by AMD all the way up to the Tioga Reservoir. This is a Army Corps flood control dam. They keep the Hammond side 5 feet higher for the purpose of diluting the degraded water quality of the Tioga River on this side. Once the plant's into effect, that water is no longer needed. So you can hold it for periods of drought and use them as low flow augmentation. 5 feet of water may not sound like a lot, but 5 feet over that whole Hammond Reservoir is 1 billion gallons of water that can be used as drought mitigation. This is a dashboard that the commission made about this project. It's a pretty slick little map. If you're interested in more information, you can find it at srbc.gov. Click on portals, go to story maps and dashboards. You'll find this project and other projects that the commission works on. This project's been a long time in the making, and Tom and I wouldn't be up here to present it to you. It would be impossible to do it without these people and the hard work that they've done for many years. My sincere thanks to everyone. This couldn't be done without them. We'll open it up now to questions. Come on up, Tom. Go ahead.
If you're gonna use open troughs, presumably a lot of these pipes are gonna go through woods and forests and stuff like that. I mean, how do you keep the leaves from clogging it up?
So the open troughs are just at the plant.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, they're just within the plant. Yeah, get away from lines, water lines and things within the plant that can clog up. We went to like every plant that's been built in the last 10 years and we kind of wrote down the negatives and positives. And a lot of times we were going to those plants and the negative was, man, our lines clog, lines clog. And then we go to Rosebud and have open troughs and I'm like, there's the solution, you know, so it's.
With that thought in mind, so your conveyance pipes are gonna be, pipes?
Yes.
So, I'm just curious, how you gonna maintain, the runoffs, keep them from clogging? What are you gonna, the design?
Yeah, I mean, so you're dealing with real acidic water, so that shouldn't be the real issue. They're already fully aerated as well. So yeah, I don't see that probably to be a problem. They're gonna be, a lot of it's forced mains as well, so they're gonna be flying under pressure, so. Yeah, I don't know if that would be, probably the spot where you might have to have some concerns with that's maybe the gravity, maybe the short distance of gravity lines we do have. But with the acidic water, I can't see that being a real concern. Yeah.
What are the plans for the long-term financial maintenance of the plant? Like, who's gonna hold the funding? What sort of restrictions are they going to have? Where they put that money generating interest? And
You hear that, Tom? That's probably a question for you. I saw you smiling as I was, did you hear it all?
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
hoping SRBC will take it over and operate it, but, plant, and it'll just be our normal funding streams. It'll all be money held with the state. Hopefully the Stream Act money from the IIJ, or bill money, whatever you call it. The Stream Act money gets to the state, and we can set up the state fund, and that'll become the long-term operation money.
Yeah, I was just gonna add to what Tom said. I'm Jamie from SRBC, and Andy King mentioned the possibility of low flow augmentation. The commission pays for water availability, draws funds. It is something for the commission and the Commonwealth to discuss, but we have revenue streams that could potentially come into play for the long-term costs as a contributor to this project.
Anyone else? Yeah.
How do you estimate the inflows? Those are some pretty large flows. Just curious how you put a
Those,
number on that.
those discharges have been sampled to death for decades. So we had a pretty good historical record there, and then in some cases, we did install some transducers, right? Especially at DCC05, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so we had a pretty good handle. There was not a lack of data on these discharges. Yeah.
What's the flow and chemistry relationship at DCC05? Like if you take, is the water still blue at those crazy high flow rates?
Yeah, it's one of those weirdos. It kind of stays highly concentrated even at high flows. You don't see that typical reduction in concentration that you would expect. I mean, there's a little bit, but not as much as you would expect. So, yeah, it's one of those ones where it's a bear at the flow level, it's a bear at the concentration level, and you got to take it all because of it.
This project had a Q-Hub done on it, so you can find it online, and it has all the water quality back to the 70s. Yeah.
Can you explain more about the sludge injection, how it gets there, how much there is, how often you're gonna be injecting?
That's probably a Sammy answer. Do you hear that, Sammy?
Yeah, I heard
Yes.
sludge injection. So, sludge injection, it's about 7,200 feet to go up to the back end. It's the same mine complex that BCC05 discharges. So Artie Crossman with Bammer did a lot of drilling, figured out there is a little bit of a hump back towards the back end of that mine complex. So the way we're doing the sludge injection is we have sludge vaults adjacent to the clarifiers. We're gonna be doing basically a timed batch to the boreholes, you know, depending on what the volume is, because there's such a difference in low to average to high flow on this project, that amount of sludge is gonna change, obviously. So we have a lot of flexibility, VFDs on the sludge pumps, we've got redundancy in the sludge vaults, and then we also have the sludge recirc that's available depending on what types of flows we're doing. But the goal with this whole system is flexibility, because the flows vary so much. So, I don't know if that answered your question, but.
How's Johnson Creek gonna be impacted, or is that later, is there impacts on Johnson coming in Blossburg? No.
No, Johnson Creek is further down, it's below these discharges, still right around Blossburg, but it comes in from the other side of the river. It's mostly been treated, there's still some impairment on it.
There's some minor stuff there, Bob, but yeah, at the mouth, I mean, it's full trout at the mouth.
Yes, not bad.
Yeah, it's up in the headwaters, there's a little bit up there, but probably could be done passively, that stuff up there. Anyone else? All right, thanks for your attendance.
Thank you.